Schopenhauer once wrote that showing your intellectual superiority to someone is one of the most dangerous things you can do because the human mind is wired to see intelligence as a threat, and threats must be eliminated. His advice? Conceal it. The 7 characters in this video understood that instinctively. That invisibility is a weapon. Let's dive in.
You know, back when I was in that barbershop quartet in Skokie, Illinois.
You don't think I know you held out on the DA?
Verbal Kint, The Usual Suspects, 1995. The room is a police interrogation room. A small, nervous man sits across from a federal agent. He has a limp, a damaged hand. He seems relieved just to be alive. His name is Roger Verbal Kint, and for the next 2 hours he is going to run the entire room. There's a concept in psychology called cognitive load. When your mind is occupied with one big idea, it stops questioning the smaller details around it. Agent Kujin is so consumed with finding the mythical Kaiser Soze that he never once stops to look at the man sitting right in front of him. So Verbal feeds that obsession. Every story he tells makes Soze sound more terrifying, more real. The bigger the monster gets, the more invisible Verbal becomes. And he's not working from a script. He builds the entire story in real time, from the names he sees scattered around the office. Kobayashi, from the bottom of a coffee mug. Redfoot, from the bulletin board. He's improvising one of the greatest deceptions in cinema history while it's happening. He reads Kujin's biases and constructs a story around them. The last shot tells you everything. Verbal walks out. Step by step, the limp disappears. The hand straightens. He was never Verbal Kint. He was always Kaiser Soze. The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. He said it himself, right to their faces. Nobody listened.
よく見破ったな。なんでわかった？
匂いだよ。いくらごまかしても、犬畜生の匂いは消せねえで。
何をガタガタ言ってやがんだ、めくらごときが。
Zatoichi, the Blind Swordsman, 2003. A blind man walks into a village. He's a masseur, a gambler. He stumbles when he walks. People move past him without a second glance. Or worse, they look at him the way you look at someone who can't look back. Nobody is afraid of him. Nobody should be. And that's exactly why they're all already dead. What makes Zatoichi different from everyone else on this list is this. He never chose his invisibility. Verbal Kint performed weakness. Zatoichi had it imposed on him by his body, by society, by every person who ever looked past him to find the real threat in the room. But somewhere along the way, he stopped fighting that perception and started using it. Because while the world was busy looking elsewhere, Zatoichi was listening. Not just to sounds, to everything. The shift of weight before a strike. The breath that shortens before a draw. The silence that means someone has already made a decision. He built an entire map of the world through the senses everyone else forgot they had. And there's something deeply human about that. We guard against what frightens us. What we dismiss, we leave completely open. Every gangster in that village dismissed him. None of them got a second chance to reconsider. The most dangerous person in the room isn't the loudest or the most intimidating. It's the one you already decided wasn't worth watching.
So we got a trooper pull someone over. We got a shooting. These folks drive by. There's a high-speed pursuit. Ends here, and then this execution type deal.
Marge Gunderson, Fargo, 1996. She's 7 months pregnant. She eats at Arby's. She says, "You betcha," and means it. When Marge Gunderson arrives at a triple homicide in the middle of a Minnesota snowstorm, nobody in that crime world sees her coming. Not because she's hiding, not because she's performing, but because the world already decided what a cheerful, pregnant, small-town police chief is, and threat wasn't on the list. That gap between what people assumed and what she actually was, that's where Marge did all her work. She never corrected them, never raised her voice, never tried to seem more intimidating than she looked. She just followed one thread at a time with the calm of someone who has nowhere else to be. There's something almost radical about her competence. In a film full of men who overestimate themselves, she never overestimates anything. She just sees clearly and keeps going. The murderers never saw her coming, not because she tricked them, not because she was smarter in some theatrical way, but because they looked at her and saw exactly what they wanted to see. That was their mistake.
On dit que t'avais pris 6 ans. Putain, ça va être long, 6 ans. Hein. T'as déjà eu des problèmes dans la cour. Tu crois que tu vas tenir longtemps sans protection?
Je tiendrai le temps qu'il faudra. Vous voulez quoi, là?
Te protéger.
Malik el-Jabena, Un Prophète, 2009. Malik el-Jabena arrives at the prison with nothing. No connections, no reputation, no allies. He can barely read. He's 19 years old, and he looks it. Small, quiet, eyes that take everything in without giving anything back. In a prison run by Corsican gangsters and Arab factions, Malik is nobody, less than nobody, the kind of person the system processes and forgets. But here's what the system doesn't understand about invisible people. They see everything. While the powerful were busy protecting their power, Malik was learning, not studying, absorbing. The Corsicans taught him without realizing it. The Arabs showed him without meaning to. He moved between two hostile worlds that both believed they were using him, and neither noticed that he was using both. This is the psychological core of Malik's story. He never announced his intelligence, never pushed back against the image people had of him. He let them keep their assumptions, because those assumptions gave him something far more valuable than respect. They gave him time. And in prison, time is everything. Time to watch, time to learn the language nobody thought he'd learn, time to build a network nobody thought he was building, time to become someone nobody thought he could become. The most dangerous move in any power game is patience, specifically the patience of someone who knows they're being underestimated and decides to use every second of it. Malik walked into that prison as nobody. He walked out as the only person who controlled everything inside it.
Yes. Shut down and closed by the attorneys.
What'd I tell you? That's exactly what I mean.
Chance the Gardener, Being There, 1979. A middle-aged man is forced out of the only home he's ever known. He has never paid taxes, never had a real conversation. The only thing he knows about the world is what he's seen on television. He talks about one thing and one thing only. His garden. When he steps into the world for the first time, something extraordinary happens. Everyone he meets assumes he's profound. He talks about seasons, about growth, about roots, and Washington's most powerful people hear political wisdom. He says almost nothing, and they fill the silence with everything they want to hear. A billionaire takes him in. The president quotes him. By the end of the film, he's being considered for the highest office in the country. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Most characters on this list understood what they were doing. They saw the gap between how the world perceived them and what they actually were, and they used it. Chance doesn't see any gap. There's no strategy, no awareness. He just exists, and yet the result is the same. The world underestimates him, projects onto him, elevates him, and he ends up at the top. Which raises a question this film never answers. Is invisibility a weapon you choose? Or can the system hand it to you without your knowledge? Being There just shows you a man walking on water and leaves you to figure out what that means.
I near soiled myself. All that needed was a suit and a tie and a little jiggly hula gal on his desk. He would have been Mr. Dufresne, if you please.
Andy Dufresne, The Shawshank Redemption, 1994. A quiet man arrives at Shawshank Prison. he keeps to himself. He helps the guards with their taxes. He builds a library. He writes letters, patient, polite, persistent letters, to get funding for that library. He asks for nothing that seems threatening. He causes no trouble that anyone can see. For years, the guards trust him. The warden uses him. The system absorbs him. And for 19 years, night after night, Andy Dufresne crawls back to his cell and chips away at the wall behind his poster. This is what makes Andy the most patient entry on this list. He doesn't just play the role of a harmless, cooperative inmate. He plays it so completely, so consistently for so long that the people around him stop seeing him as a person with agency at all. He becomes part of the furniture, a useful, quiet, non-threatening fixture of Shawshank. And that's exactly what he needed them to think. There's something almost inhuman about that level of discipline. To wake up every day inside a prison, you know you're going to escape and act perfectly, like a man who has accepted his fate. To smile at the warden, to thank the guards, to never once let the mask slip. Not for 19 years. The night Andy crawls through 500 yards of sewage and walks out the other side, it's not just an escape. It's the end of the longest performance in cinema history.
내 굿을 가져간 건 말이 되고
O Il-nam, Squid Game, 2021. An old man sits in a corner. He's frail. He's dying. He has a brain tumor. He seems confused, childlike, harmless. The other players look at him the way you look at someone who won't last the week, with pity, maybe, or with the quiet calculation of people who have already written him off. Nobody considers him a threat. Nobody thinks to ask why he's there. And that's the only question that actually matters. Because O Il-nam isn't a player. He's the architect. Every game was his idea. Every rule was his design. Every death happened inside a world he built. And he sat in the middle of it, frail and watching, experiencing it all from the inside. This is the most extreme version of this theme on the list. Every other character used their invisibility to survive, to escape, to accumulate power. O Il-nam used his to feel something, to sit inside the machine he built and experience it as if he were just another broken person with nothing left to lose. The mask was the whole point. There's something deeply disturbing about that. A man so powerful he could buy any experience in the world who chose to disappear into the most desperate place imaginable, just to feel alive again. He played dumb because it was the only game left that still meant something to him. 7 characters, 7 different worlds. One lesson. The world doesn't reward the loudest. It rewards the ones who understood something fundamental about human nature, that people only fear what they can see. Hide the threat. Do the work. Let them underestimate you. That's not weakness. That's the oldest strategy in the world. Thank you for watching.